The LA Times has published details of what seems to be slavery-like conditions at immigration detention centers. Now, we're first going to talk about the case of Delmy Cruz, who worked at one of these detention centers. She made $3 per day cleaning bathrooms, hallways, and other parts of the detention center. At the commissary, she could buy her son a bag of potato chips for $4 or a bottle of water for $2. The prison facility is run by GEO Group, the country's second largest private prison company. So yes, it costs her a full day's pay, does not pay for a simple bag of potato chips at this place that she is being held and being offered up so graciously the ability to work for, at best, pennies per hour.
So remember when you went on vacation with your friends to the woods of Missouri?
Mm-hmm. It wasn't the woods, we were just in Missouri, but yes.
And you watched like a bunch of TV?
We did.
So, and I made fun of you?
You did,
so,
I remember that.
So when my wife and child and I went to Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, we watched 15 hours of Orange is the New Black. Now
that's about as much Game of Thrones as I watched.
Now you rewatched a show, which is still pretty fucking weird. But at least I watched a show I hadn't seen before.
That's true.
So I consider myself a bit of a prison expert now. But one of the things in the show that is true, and in this story buttresses it, is outrageous. Is the price of things at the commissary. Mm-hmm. I mean, under what? I mean, then pay them less and have it cost a normal amount.
Yeah.
Like you can't charge people in prison $4 for a can of Pepsi.
Yeah.
Charge them $1 for the can of Pepsi. Have you, I mean, seriously, have you no decency? You won. They're in prison.
Yeah.
You've got it. And they can't earn a living.
Yeah.
And there's a maximum number of dollars that can be put in their commissary fund. And if they want to buy 20 Pepsis with the $20 a week, okay, they get to buy 20 Pepsis.
Yeah, then they'll probably, get diabetes. They'll be in there less time. And look, I think that even in that case, like some people will say, well, they're prisoners. They're in prison. They deserve it. We're not talking, Delmy Cruz is not a prisoner.
Right,
She's not in prison. She's in an immigration family holdings, a detention center for families. And so, look, why is this possible? Why do we have the situation where these private companies are effectively creating modern slaves out of people in a horrible situation? Well, Congress passed a law in 1950 allowing U.S. prison inmates to work for $1 per day. Bear in mind, that's 65 years ago. The law was reviewed in 1979 and 1990. So again, it hasn't been even reviewed in 25 years, but it was upheld back then. The problem is that inmates and immigration detainees are not the same thing. Being held by Immigration and Customs Enforcement is not supposed to be a punishment, according to a staff attorney for the ACLU's
Of course
National
it's not
Prison
supposed to be a punishment. There's only one thing supposed to be a punishment. If you've been convicted of a crime, and if you've been arrested and charged with a crime and convicted by a jury, or you pled guilty, that's the only time we're allowed to punish you. We don't punish you by holding you in the detention center, although it's obviously punishing you because you're being detained because it's in the name.
It's already a punishment. Being forced to work for a couple of dollars for an entire day's work and not being able to feed your kids based on that.
I think they're not. I don't think they're forced to work.
No, I'm not saying, but that's the only opportunity. And for some of these people who don't necessarily have any funds outside of this, they might not have been in the country for a long time.
I want that class action.
I know. I'm not saying. I want to be very clear about that. I'm not saying forced to work. But I'm saying you can't do $3 per day. That's ridiculous under any conditions.
So let's get a class action lawsuit. Let's sue and let's drop a $375 million judgment on these people, and then have to pay it to what they will see as all those horrible Mexicans who snuck in here. Oh, I want that to happen so badly.
Now look, here's the defense, by the way.
And then you can't charge $4 for a bag of potato chips when you pay somebody $3 a day when you pay them and work them like a slave.
It's not a movie theater. It's not, it's not the airport. How are you charging these prices?
It's one thing to charge it at the airport.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you chose to fly. They didn't want to be held there. So this is a defense by an ICE spokesperson. This is the Immigration and Customs Enforcement official who says the program allows detainees to feel productive and contribute to the orderly operation of detention facilities. Which, if that's your goal, that's perfectly fine. And I can see some value in them feeling like they're a part of the system, they're being productive. None of that explains why they need to be paid $3 for a day of work, especially when these are private prisons. And we know that those prisons almost universally are being overpaid massively by the government, whether federal or state, to hold these people. But an immigration law clinic director at the University of Texas at Austin says the practice is not a service to the women. It's part of their profit-making model, which seems clear to me.
They're cleaning stuff. You then don't have to pay somebody to clean it. This is obviously what's happening.
Yeah, and they point out, the LA Times, in their investigation, that items for sale at the commissary are sometimes up to 4 times as expensive as they are at very nearby Walmarts.